Brent here from American English with this guy, and this lesson is going to be about love and relationships. A couple days ago, I did a live lesson. This is only the lesson, no questions from viewers. It's about 20 minutes long. There are no ads, so you can watch straight through. There are 13 terms that will help you with your English and 20 sentences that I say. The sentence will be on the screen and you can use it to practice your shadowing. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoy. Oops, I forgot to mention there are chapters below. So if you want to jump right to a word, you can do that. Again, thanks for watching. One more thing. This is the last one, I promise. I will be doing a part 2 about love and relationships. So in the comments, if you have any questions or you want me to cover some terms in the future, let me know. Again, I think that's it. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you. Oh wait, one more thing. Just kidding. Enjoy. Today, we will be talking about love and relationships. I think I have about 13 terms for you, about 20 sentences you can practice shadowing with. Just hitting that thumbs up. So if you could do that for me, that would be amazing. So in English, when we say relationships, that could be just like a mother and a son, could be a brother and a sister. We will get to some of those terms later. But if you say somebody is in a relationship, they are in a relationship, that means more about like love. They might be dating. We'll talk about dating in just a minute. But as you can see in that slide right there, those two people, they look like they are in a relationship. So relationships, we'll talk about related in a minute too, but a relationship might mean that they have something to do with love, or it could be that they are related. And we'll talk about related by marriage. We'll talk about related by blood in a little bit. Now, this next sentence here, clearly, they are a couple. I think we'll talk about that term. The first term is always the hardest because I'm using so many terms we will talk about later in the lesson. But that sentence right down there, if you want to practice shadowing, I will say it hopefully very clearly and very slowly for you. They have been in a relationship since last summer. So you might say that they're dating. They're dating. So those two terms can be used in pretty much the same way. They are in a relationship or they are dating. So that dating is what a couple might do before they get married. How about this, though? Going back to relationship, she doesn't have a good relationship with her brother. Now, that's another way to say they don't get along very well. So maybe they've become quite distant. They're not exactly close anymore. The next one, dating. Dating. Again, this is something, an older term in English for dating would be courting. But if you ever see courting, it's not used that much in the United States anymore. You might hear 50 years ago or 100 years ago, he is courting her. It means he's trying to marry her. Right now, we talk more about dating. And you can actually go on a date. A lot of these words can be nouns or they can be verbs. A couple, that's another one. A couple. Now, sometimes we use it not in dating. So, a couple of idiots. just ran a red light. There's nothing to do with love or relationships there. This is talking about traffic and a car. There's a green light. Green means go, red means stop. If a car doesn't stop, they have run a red light. So if you hear a couple of something, that's different. But if you hear they are a couple, means they are romantic. They are in love. Let's practice shadowing that sentence again. A couple of idiots just ran a red light. So hopefully you know what running a red light is. Idiot is not a very nice person. Dumb. A dumb person. But we could have something like they are related by marriage. They are related by marriage. Let's say there are two people and maybe they have one person has a father and the other person has a mother. So we're talking about two different people with a mother and a father. Now, if those two people get married, the two kids, they could be related by marriage. They might be stepbrother and stepsister. Related by blood is a little different. Those are brothers and sisters. They are related by blood. Mothers and sons, mothers and daughters, that kind of relationship, that would be related by blood. So they share some sort of DNA. I have another sentence there for you. Rebecca and Sandra are related by marriage. So maybe they have a sister who married another guy, and so they might be sister-in-laws. Now, I'm not getting into the actual names of relatives in this, a little bit more focus on the love, but I do believe there will be a part 2 for love and relationship here. So many terms, so many terms. So remember, a couple, they are two people who are dating. They are a couple. They are possibly in love. The next one you probably know, that is marriage. That's when things get real. So that is when a couple decides to take the plunge. You might hear that term when two people decide to get married. They have decided to take the plunge and get married. So in that picture, you will see there are two rings. Rings are often symbolic of marriage. I think many cultures use rings to symbolize two people being married. I actually have my wedding ring on right now. I never take it off. That symbolizes that I am married to Jamie. I believe she is in the chat somewhere. And that piece of paper on that picture is called a marriage certificate. A marriage certificate. When you get married, you have to go down to the courthouse in the United States and you have to fill out some papers to show the government that you are married. And then they can charge you different types of taxes because you are married. Here's another sentence that you might want to practice shadowing with. They are going to get married in June of next year. So currently, we are in 2021, the year 2021. So when you want to talk about June of 2022, June is a good month to get married. And also because the weather is usually pretty good. January, not a lot of people in the United States get married in January or February or March. Jamie and I decided to get married in May, which is a nice month. But if somebody was going to get married next year and you want to talk about the month, You could say it like that sentence below. They are going to get married in June of next year. That lets people know that it is June 2022. Let's see, what's the next term here? Bride. So the next two terms, they go together. So if a woman is getting married, we might call her a bride. A bride. I think I might have a couple sentences here using, oh, yeah, here we go. Want to practice shadowing here? This is maybe for a woman who has not yet been married. She is going to make a beautiful bride. So maybe a couple people are talking, maybe some women, maybe her mother is talking, like, oh, I can't wait until her wedding day. She is going to make a beautiful bride. I mean, she's going to look very lovely on her wedding day. The next one here is groom. Groom. I'm hoping that's a new term because they're related to two other terms in English. If you look at the sentence below, after the wedding, the groom becomes a husband and a bride becomes a wife. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm looking. There should be a comma there. I missed a comma. Okay. I feel better now. There's a comma there. That is grammatically correct now. After the wedding, the groom becomes a husband and a bride becomes a wife. All right. Groom, bride on their wedding day, excuse me, after the ceremony is over, we might say a wedding ceremony. You might hear that term, wedding ceremony. After the ceremony, the bride is now a wife and the groom is a husband. It's pretty much only on their wedding day you will hear those terms, or maybe before they get married. Engagement. Engagement. So the next two are also related: proposal and engagement. These might be new words for you. They can also be verbs too. We could change engagement to engaged. Here's a sample sentence. She is engaged. Another typo. This is unprofessional here. What the heck? This is better. This is better. She is engaged to him. When we talk about engagement or we talk about engaged, that is when, let's see, where is it? That is when a couple, they no longer are dating. They have made a promise to each other to get married. So there's a time between dating and marriage, and we call that being engaged, an engagement period. You can see the tradition right here would be for the man to get down on one knee and present the woman with a ring. Now, when Jamie and I got married, I did not get down on one knee. And 2021, almost 2022, in the United States, it has been legal for a long time that it does not have to be just a man marrying a woman. That is the traditional way, but it's not the only way. This picture I have is of a man proposing to a woman, but so I think of the next one. No, but it's possible the woman could propose to the man, or a woman could propose to a woman. Totally legal in the United States. Engagement. Their engagement lasted 6 months. So there is a period between dating and marriage that we call engagement. Their engagement lasted 6 months. That could be pretty typical in the United States. I think the average time of engagement would be about 6 months to a year. The next one, proposal. These two terms are very much related. We can also change this to proposed to make it a verb. He proposed to her back in their hometown. So when I wrote this example sentence, I thought of two people maybe living in a town for college, but the guy wanted to make it special. Maybe that when they went back home on vacation or a break from college, he decided to propose to her back in their hometown. If you want to practice shadowing that sentence, of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, come on, what are you waiting for? Don't forget, subscribe. Fiancé. Fiancé. This can be pretty difficult or it can be pretty easy. What I want to do is make this as easy as possible for you. So I have an article that I found. There are two different spellings for fiancé, but we pretty much only use one of them now. And we'll get to that in a minute. But a fiancé is what you call another person if you are engaged to them, but you are not yet married. And here you can see this woman is proposing to the man. It happens. It's not tradition, but some traditions are made to be broken. So, fiance, I spelled it with two E's there. You will also see it spelled with one E. The good news is they're pronounced the same way. Fiance, fiance. And let's take a look at this article here, though. If you are ever confused about which one you should use, I've highlighted this right there. So, especially given the increased social awareness of non binary gender issues, when you see non binary, that means there are some people who don't identify as a man or as a woman, or sometimes they identify as a man, sometimes they identify as a woman. You might also hear gender fluid because in English, we are trying to get away from words that have gender. Instead of a policeman, we say an officer or a police officer or a police person. So trying to take the waiter, how about somebody who brings you your food, waiter, that waitress, male and female gender. You might hear server. The same is with fiance. I think the most common spelling now would be with one E, but if you want to put another E on there, that's fine too. And you can see right here that it feels a bit old fashioned and out of date if you have any difference between fiance and fiance, same pronunciation. You can just use this one right here, fiance, if you would like, for both a man and a woman. So I didn't want anybody to be confused when they were looking up this word. The two E's is fine. It usually refers to a woman, but it's not a big deal if you add the extra E, and it only matters if you're writing it, right? So fiance, that is what you call a person who has been engaged to marry another person. Fiance. She is his fiance. She is his fiance. And it is tradition also in the United States to ask the father of the bride permission to marry his daughter. That's the tradition. But there are also some people that say, hey, a woman doesn't need to get the permission of a man to do anything. So there's a difference between what is traditional and, what is more modern. We have something called relative. And this can get a little tricky. I didn't want to get too much into uncle, aunt, great grandfather, but you could have relatives. I have mentioned this in this lesson already. You could have a relative by marriage, or you could have a relative by blood. You will actually hear that. So, if two people share the same DNA, like a father and a son, a brother and a sister, a mother and a son, mother and a daughter, you will hear they are related by blood. They're related by blood. Or they might be related by marriage. That's when you have sister-in-laws, brothers. The plural is actually brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, a mother-in-law. We will get to that probably in another lesson, but I did want you to know the term relative, which is a noun, but I have a sentence. But we could talk about related. They are related. You'll hear that as well. And that is a verb. So check out this sentence. They are not related by blood. They are related by marriage. They are not related by blood. They are related by marriage. The next one is the distant relative. Distant relative. So these are people that are not exactly in your family that you see often. You might hear terms like second or third cousin. Those are people that are not related to you in a close way. Maybe you've never met them, but somewhere down the line, you are slightly related by blood. Maybe you share a little DNA. Distant relative. You might hear that. Distant relative. When you go to a family reunion, there are so many terms that I could have put in this lesson. Distant relative. These are not brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts. They might be second cousins. They might be great uncles. Those are some terms we use for distant relatives. And there is that verb, related. They are related. You might hear they are distant cousins. Yes, they are related, but they don't share a lot of DNA. And we already talked about siblings. So here are a couple sentences that I hope will help with some terms we use for relatives, but in part 2, we will go into more detail. But your cousin is a child of an uncle or an aunt. Your cousin is a child of an uncle or an aunt. These are relatives. Well, you may ask, what's an aunt? Maybe you know this already, but your aunt is your mother or your father's sister. And in English, we will usually take the first name and add uncle or aunt to it. For example, I do have some nieces and nephews, and they might call me Uncle Brent. Since my first name is Brent, they might call me Uncle Brent and Aunt Jamie. Aunt Jamie. Certain parts of the US, you will hear the pronunciation aunt, just like the animal, aunt. Uncle. Your uncle is your mother or your father's brother. Hopefully that makes sense.
Hopefully that makes sense. And a sibling can be either a brother or a sister. So I want to thank you all for joining. Maybe you need to watch this again. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you real soon.